What if the biggest financial fraud of our generation was run by a guy who actually thought he was saving the world? What if the same person who stole billions from everyday investors was simultaneously donating hundreds of millions to charity? What if a single tweet, one tweet, was all it took to collapse a $32 billion empire in 72 hours? Because that's exactly what happened. In this video, we're going deep into the rise and catastrophic fall of FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried, the MIT physics nerd turned crypto king who put his name on an NBA arena, charmed Wall Street, testified in Congress in cargo shorts, and then got arrested in the Bahamas. We're talking fraud, Alameda Research, hidden code, and one of the fastest financial meltdowns in history. Stick around, because the deeper this story goes, the weirder and more uncomfortable it gets. If you've ever wondered how billions can just vanish overnight, or how the smartest investors on the planet kept getting fooled, you're gonna want the full picture. Grab a drink, hit full screen, and let's start at the end, with everything already on fire. Okay, let's go back to the beginning, the real beginning. Sam Bankman-Fried grows up in Palo Alto, California. Both parents are Stanford law professors, so yeah, not exactly a rough start. He gets into MIT, studies physics, and by all accounts is that classic, slightly awkward, terrifyingly smart type you'd expect to find doing problem sets at 3 in the morning. In his junior year, Sam walks into a talk by a philosopher named William MacAskill, and MacAskill introduces him to something called effective altruism. The basic idea: don't just feel like you want to do good in the world, optimize it. Use math and data to figure out where you can help the most people. Treat ethics like a spreadsheet. And for a physics brain like Sam's, that pitch lands hard. MacAskill's argument to Sam was basically, you're really gifted with numbers. If you go make an enormous amount of money in finance and donate most of it away, you'll save more lives than if you spent your entire career working directly for a charity. That concept is called earning to give, and Sam completely, totally, absolutely bought in. Hook, line, and sinker. After MIT, Sam lands a job at Jane Street Capital, one of those hyper-secretive quant trading firms where the brainpower per square foot is frankly unfair. He reportedly starts donating big chunks of his salary right away. No flashy lifestyle, no Lambos, just a guy in hoodies doing sophisticated trades and apparently playing long-term charity chess. The version of Sam from 2015 and 2016, he seemed real. Then 2017 hits and crypto basically kicks down the door. Sam notices a gap. Bitcoin is trading at a premium in Japan compared to US markets. Buy cheap here, sell expensive there, pocket the difference. That's arbitrage. He founds Alameda Research to exploit that gap at scale, and suddenly the legal money printer is fully turned on and running very, very fast. By the way, Alameda Research, amazing name choice. It sounds like a boring lab doing marine biology on a pier somewhere. In reality, an aggressive crypto hedge fund. That desire to look boring and safe on the outside while doing very spicy things on the inside, that, as we'll see, is a recurring theme throughout this entire story. Before we keep going, I want to stop here and ask you something, and I genuinely want your answer in the comments. If you absolutely believed, truly believed that committing financial fraud would let you donate enough to save 1 million lives, would you do it? Yes, no, or it's complicated? Drop it below, because that is the exact argument Sam made to himself every single day. That's the foundation, a legitimately brilliant math nerd, a radical philosophy about money and doing good, and a crypto market handing out free money for anyone fast enough to grab it. That's Act 1. In Act 2, that same kid builds one of the most powerful financial brands in the world, and we see where the first cracks start to form. Like the video if you're in, let's keep going. Fast forward to 2019, Sam launches FTX, a new cryptocurrency exchange. Not a meme coin, not a random NFT project, a real serious trading platform built for institutional-grade traders. Clean interface, powerful derivatives products, fewer outages than the competition. Within a couple of years, FTX isn't just another exchange. It's one of the biggest on the planet, with users everywhere. And the growth, embarrassingly fast. By early 2022, FTX hits a peak valuation of $32 billion. That was a 4-year-old company. It took most major banks decades to reach numbers like that. FTX basically speed ran it. And Sam personally, roughly $26 billion on paper, making him one of the 50 wealthiest people on Earth. From MIT physics class to Forbes cover in about 7 years. The press coverage was stratospheric. Magazine covers, congressional testimony in wrinkled cargo shorts, celebrity partnerships, Tom Brady, Giselle, Steph Curry, Shaquille O'Neal. FTX bought the naming rights to the Miami Heat Arena, $135 million over 19 years. Larry David did a whole Super Bowl commercial. This wasn't just a company anymore. It was a brand you literally saw during NBA highlights every single week. And the story behind the brand? Perfect. The billionaire who sleeps on a beanbag, drives a Toyota Corolla, doesn't buy fancy things, just wants to make money so he can give it all away. He launches the FTX Future Fund, committing hundreds of millions to pandemic preparedness, AI safety, and Save the World research projects. The effective altruism narrative had gone completely mainstream. Here's the uncomfortable part, though. FTX was a real business with real users and real trading volume. That part was genuine. But the financial infrastructure underneath, a complete disaster. Later investigations revealed basically no functioning accounting department, no independent board, and finances being tracked through a Signal group chat. The Enron cleanup guy would later call it the worst financial management he had ever seen in his career. John Ray III, the man later brought in to manage the aftermath, wrote in official court filings, quote, "Never in my career have I seen such a complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information as occurred here." End quote. And to be crystal clear, this is the guy who cleaned up after Enron. That sentence should genuinely give you chills. So by this point, you've got a three-piece illusion: a legitimate, fast-growing business on the front, a charismatic, world-saving billionaire in the middle, and below deck, financial chaos that nobody's seriously questioning. In Act 3, one leaked document and one tweet are going to rip that illusion completely in half, like in about 4 days flat. Subscribe so you don't miss it. November 2nd, 2022, a Tuesday. A crypto news outlet called CoinDesk publishes a story based on a leaked Alameda Research balance sheet. On paper, Alameda shows about $14.6 billion in assets. The catch, a massive chunk of that, billions of dollars, is FTT, the token FTX themselves created. So your trading firm's wealth is mostly your own in-house play money. Imagine if a bank said, "Don't worry, we're totally safe. Most of our assets are stock certificates we printed for ourselves." That's roughly the vibe. The second serious traders see that balance sheet, they start asking the obvious question: if this token tanks, does Alameda go down with it? And if Alameda goes down, what exactly happens to FTX? 4 days later, November 6th, 2022, the CEO of Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, known globally as CZ, tweets that Binance will liquidate its entire FTT position, about $530 million worth, citing recent revelations. That's basically the heavyweight champ walking into the room and very publicly announcing, "I don't trust this anymore." Everyone's watching. 16 minutes after CZ's tweet, Carolyn Ellison, Alameda's CEO, and yes, reportedly Sam's on-and-off girlfriend, which is a whole separate episode, replies publicly offering to buy all of Binance's FTT at $22 per token. This was supposed to calm things down. Instead, it had the exact opposite effect. Professional investors saw the desperation immediately, and they ran. FTT craters. Within 24 hours, it's down roughly 80%, wiping out billions in market value. And because Alameda used FTT as collateral for its borrowing, every dollar FTT falls erases chunks of Alameda's balance sheet in real time. The entire financial structure is suddenly wobbling badly, and the whole crypto world can see it happening live on their screens. So now we've got a trading firm whose assets are melting, a token in free fall, and the world's biggest competitor publicly saying, "We're out," in front of everyone. In Act 4, regular FTX customers are going to do what humans always do in a panic: run for the exits. And that's where the 72-hour meltdown really begins. Stay with us. Right after CZ's tweet, FTX users start pulling their money. In roughly 24 hours, customers request approximately $6 billion in withdrawals. $6 billion in one day. For any financial institution, that's a full-blown bank run. For FTX, which had quietly moved around $10 billion of customer funds over to Alameda, it is essentially a death sentence. From the outside, though, Sam is still projecting calm. On November 7th, he tweets, and I want you to hear this exactly, quote, "FTX is fine. Assets are fine," end quote. That tweet, that line, is arguably the most catastrophically wrong public statement made by any financial executive in the history of social media. It will be read aloud in federal courtrooms for the next 2 years. On November 8th, what looks like a miracle appears. Binance signs a non-binding letter of intent to acquire FTX. The idea is that Binance steps in, backstops the customer withdrawals, and takes over the platform. Crypto prices actually bounce on the news. For about 4 hours, some people genuinely believe the worst might be over. Spoiler, it really isn't. Binance's lawyers look at FTX's real numbers and back out almost immediately. They cite mishandled customer funds and potential government investigations. Translation: this is not a liquidity hiccup. This is a hole in the balance sheet the size of a small country. Sam reaches out to other potential rescuers, Apollo Global Management, others. Nobody steps up. The hole is simply too deep. November 10th, FTX halts all withdrawals. If your savings were on that platform, you now get a loading spinner where your money used to be. November 11th, FTX, Alameda Research, and 130 other affiliated companies file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Sam resigns as CEO. The golden boy of crypto has officially, completely blown up his empire. 1 month later, December 12, 2022, the Bahamian authorities arrest Sam Bankman-Fried at his apartment in Nassau at the request of U.S. federal prosecutors. The same man who was testifying before Congress about how to properly regulate cryptocurrency just months earlier is now being escorted out of a luxury building in handcuffs. The era of the golden boy is officially over. From the CoinDesk leak to bankruptcy, 9 days. From quiet Twitter whispers to a global financial firestorm, 72 hours. And yet, we've mostly talked about outcomes. In Act 5, we're going into how this machine actually worked and why people with PhDs and billion-dollar funds didn't see it coming until it was far too late. Don't go anywhere. Quick heads up before we go further, this next section is a deep financial dive. We're talking collateral loops, hidden credit lines, mark-to-market accounting, the actual wiring under FTX's dashboard. If you want to keep things simple, hit the timestamp on screen right now and jump straight to Act 6. For everyone staying, buckle up. This part is genuinely fascinating. Let's start with FTT, FTX's own proprietary exchange token. Think of it like loyalty points with extra powers. Holders got trading fee discounts on the FTX platform. FTX also committed to buying back and burning FTT using a portion of its revenues, which helped support the price. That buyback mechanism gave FTT a real claim to fundamental value, backed by actual FTX cash flows. Here's where the structure breaks completely. Alameda was using FTT as its primary collateral for borrowing, but the only reason FTT was worth anything was that people believed FTX was healthy. It's circular. FTX's health depends on Alameda, Alameda's health depends on FTT holding its value, and FTT's value depends entirely on FTX. In finance, that's called self-referential collateral, and it is catastrophically dangerous. There was also a literal engineered backdoor. A special Alameda account in FTX's own code could carry a negative balance of essentially unlimited size. Normal users liquidated the moment they went below zero. Alameda, no such limit. It could just keep pulling money out, and that money was customer deposits, real people's savings, quietly redirected with no announcement and no consent whatsoever. By late 2022, Alameda reportedly owed FTX around $10 billion. FTX's total customer liabilities somewhere north of $11 billion. In plain English, almost every single dollar that customers thought was sitting safely in their accounts had been quietly sent to Alameda's trading desk, and many of those bets were getting absolutely destroyed in the 2022 crypto downturn. Here's the other layer. Alameda's balance sheet looked rich because of mark-to-market accounting, assets valued at whatever the current market price is. But a huge portion of those assets were deeply illiquid. Enormous positions in small-cap tokens, private equity, FTT, none of which could be rapidly sold. The moment you try to exit a position that size, you become the selling pressure. You crash the price of the very thing you're trying to liquidate. This is precisely why Carolyn Ellison's offer to buy Binance's FTT at $22 was simultaneously desperate and internally rational. Alameda's entire borrowing structure was priced against FTT's market value. If FTT fell below certain thresholds, margin calls would hit that Alameda mathematically could not meet, triggering forced liquidations that would only accelerate the price decline further. They were holding a crumbling dam together with their bare hands. Sam's defense at trial rested heavily on one distinction. He insisted FTX had a liquidity crisis, not a solvency crisis. A liquidity crisis means you have the assets, you just can't convert them to cash fast enough, like a homeowner who can't pay a $10,000 bill today because they can't sell their house overnight. A solvency crisis means your liabilities genuinely exceed your assets, regardless of timeline. The court unanimously disagreed with Sam's framing. So strip away all the branding, the sports deals, the charity donations. At its core, the machine worked like this. Create your own token, use it as collateral that looks solid on paper. Secretly borrow your customers' money against it and hope the market never stress tests how real any of it actually is. Once that test came, November 6, 2022, the whole thing collapsed in days. Okay, if you stayed through that, genuinely well done. Act 6 is next. After the bankruptcy, John Ray and his team start digging, and what they find is almost comically bad. Virtually no traditional accounting systems. Executive loans issued with zero paperwork. Corporate decisions made through disappearing Signal chats. One laptop screen reportedly still open to a completely broken Excel spreadsheet. rows and rows of hash-ref errors where the financial record should be. Ray calls it the worst failure of corporate controls he has ever seen. And again, this is the Enron guy. Meanwhile, Sam's inner circle falls apart spectacularly. Caroline Ellison pleads guilty, agrees to cooperate. Gary Wang, FTX co-founder and the engineer who actually coded the backdoor, pleads guilty, cooperates. Nishad Singh, the engineering lead, pleads guilty and cooperates. Ryan Salame cooperates. By the time Sam's trial opens in October 2023, prosecutors have the people who were literally in the room ready to testify against him in detail. Sam actually takes the stand himself on October 27, 2023. He acknowledges serious mistakes, says controls were inadequate, but insists he never intended to defraud anyone, that he didn't fully understand what was happening with customer funds, that he was overwhelmed by the collapse. The jury listens, goes to deliberate, and comes back in 4 hours. 4 hours. Guilty on all 7 counts. On March 28, 2024, Judge Lewis Kaplan sentences Sam Bankman-Fried to 25 years in federal prison and orders him to forfeit $11 billion. Prosecutors had wanted 40 to 50 years. The defense had asked for roughly 5 or 6. Judge Kaplan wasn't having it. He stated plainly that Sam knew what he was doing, knew it was criminal, and simply gambled he wouldn't get caught. Here's the part of this story I genuinely did not see coming. The FTX bankruptcy estate, managed by John Ray's team, has executed what experts are calling an extraordinary recovery. The plan projects paying back 98% of creditors in full, and for smaller account holders, approximately 119 cents on the dollar. In the history of major financial frauds, bankruptcy scholars had literally called that outcome, and I'm quoting here, nearly miraculous. There is one painful asterisk, though, and it's a real one. These repayments are calculated based on what your assets were worth in November 2022. Bitcoin was trading around $17,000 when FTX collapsed. By the time repayments began, it had surpassed $100,000. So if you held Bitcoin on FTX, you're being paid back the 2022 dollar value, not the actual coin. You're whole on paper, but you missed the entire rally. Legally, though, it is still extraordinary. In most large-scale bankruptcies, unsecured creditors recover pennies, 5 cents, 10 cents on the dollar if they're lucky. Here, thanks to aggressive asset recovery, clawbacks from political donations and Bahamian real estate, and a bull crypto market doing the rest, customers are getting almost everything back. That almost never happens in a case this size and this messy. And here's where I keep landing when I sit with this story. Sam Bankman-Fried started, or at least appeared to start, with something that wasn't entirely cynical. The effective altruism framework he embraced wasn't fringe philosophy. Earning to give, maximizing charitable impact, serious thinkers take these ideas seriously. But somewhere in the timeline, the math got corrupted. The greater good became a license for taking whatever was needed. I want to hear your read on that. Do you think Sam was a straight-up scammer from day one? The whole effective altruism thing was always just cover? Or someone who started with genuine intentions and slowly rationalized worse and worse decisions until he crossed a line he couldn't come back from? Or maybe that framing is already giving him way too much credit. Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. That is the full story of FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried. From MIT physics class to a $32 billion empire to a Bahamian arrest to a federal prison sentence in roughly 8 years. And if you watched this entire thing, genuinely, thank you. That means a lot. If this video helped make the FTX story actually make sense for you, do me a favor and hit that like button right now. Share this with a friend who still thinks crypto is just magic internet money, or with someone who had funds on FTX and never quite understood what actually happened to them. And if you want more deep dive stories exactly like this one, the history, the finance, the moments that shaped the world we're actually living in, hit subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, and maybe, just maybe, keep at least part of your savings somewhere with a little less cargo shorts energy. I'll see you in the next one.